Welcome everybody to our workshop this evening. We're going to be covering a lot of ground together tonight, so I wanted to get right into it. Are you able to see the main screen, I hope? I've shared that, I believe, with you, and hopefully you'll see as we proceed through the workshop PowerPoint every bit of information I hope to share with you guys today. So this workshop is the 4 wealth-killing dangers of conventional retirement plans and how to avoid them. It's very important that we have some kind of solution at the end of all this. So again, this presentation is going to be delivered by me, Mark Willis. So I am a certified financial planner. I'm also a two-time number one best-selling author, and I'm the owner of Lake Growth Financial Services, a financial firm right here in Chicago, Illinois. Over the years, I've helped hundreds of clients take back control of their financial future, build their businesses with sophisticated, tax-efficient financial solutions. Some of the things that I typically like to specialize in with my clients are financial strategies that are typically unknown to typical stock jockeys, attorneys, other financial gurus. I also co-host the Not Your Average Financial Podcast. And on the show, I share some strategies for investing in real estate, saving and paying for college without going broke, and creating an income in retirement that you cannot outlive. So I work and live here in the city of Chicago. I have a wonderful wife and beautiful daughter. She's about 2.5 years old. She's probably eating dinner and about to go to sleep at this time. So I'm glad to be with you guys this evening, but I'm going to rush home and be with her once this is all finished. So I love working with people who want to grow their wealth in ways that are safe and predictable. And I work specifically on helping people become their own source of financing and creating a tax-free income in retirement. So that's really what we're going to focus in on today, are those particular strategies. So what you're about to discover is why conventional retirement plans have failed us. You're going to learn 4 dangers of conventional retirement plans and how to avoid them, and how to bypass Wall Street, grow your wealth every year, even when markets are tumbling. So you guys should know right up front that I am a post-recession planner. So when I think about my career, it started in finance right in the middle of the last major recession we went through as a country. I was working for a CPA, a nationally recognized expert in tax and investments. I was watching her call up clients to notify the clients that she had just lost half of their life savings due to the market crash. And many of the clients that she worked with were over 60 years old. So what follows here then are my findings, having started my own financial firm. 10 years since the Great Recession began, I found at least 4 major ways that people are being robbed blind in their retirement. And my prayer is that by you guys knowing at least the 4 major reasons why people don't meet their retirement dreams and goals, hopefully you can avoid them and take action. So we'll also learn how to access your retirement savings with no penalties or restrictions and no taxes due, and how to tell banks, finance, and credit card companies to take a hike and become their own source of financing, become your own source of financing. So we're also going to learn how to reach your goals without taking unnecessary risks. I mean, couldn't we all use a little more control over our finances? So where has conventional retirement planning got us so far? So it's become clear to me as a financial planner that 401ks have been an experiment that has not turned out well. We had pensions, if you remember, before 401ks that lasted for life. They were income for life. And now we all have basically a bunch of risk back on our shoulders as 401k holders, and we're expected to manage our investments like the pros and somehow also deal with the rest of our lives and keep a day job in the meantime. So how has that been working out, right? In fact, according to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, the typical household nearing retirement has an average of only $135,000 combined in their retirement accounts. Now, that might be a lot for some people, not a lot for others, but the point is that will provide just about $600 per month of income. All right, that will not cover all of the life's expenses in retirement. I mean, it's not even enough money to cover groceries, let alone health care, heating, other necessities. What's worse is that's the total amount of people's net worth minus their house, meaning none of it is going to be liquid to them. Most people don't plan for next month's expenses. We even forget that Christmas comes every year, for goodness sakes. But even more, people don't plan further afield to think about their costs in retirement. So, that's partly what we're here for, I suppose. But even those that do plan for their retirement expenses, virtually all the folks I usually talk with forget a few major key expenses. So, such as medical expenses. Fidelity study recently came out saying that we need an additional $275,000 on top of what we're going to need for living in retirement, just for medical expenses. Add to that is nursing home costs. So, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, odds are each of us will need long term care and nursing home costs on top of that. And that's going to be an additional $250,000 for assisted living. That's according to the US Department of Health and Human Services. So, bottom line is that we're going to need about $500,000 or more just for medical and long term care, not to mention other retirement needs, which is more than what most people have saved altogether. So, having done thousands of financial interviews and consultations over the years, I've come to find that there are, in general, four big problems with conventional retirement plans and saving strategies. So, again, maybe by you guys knowing these top four, you can avoid uh, these major pitfalls others have fallen into and live the financially stress free life that you're looking for in your golden years, and maybe even right now. So let's take a look at each one. The first problem is that there are zero guarantees and no predictability in conventional retirement plans. So let's look into that. So when you think about it, what guarantee do you have in your 401k or your IRA? If you think about it, without having any guarantees in the 401k or IRA, how is it possible that we could really build a plan? When we come to think about it, if you're ever going to get in the car and take a road trip, you're going to rely on a few guarantees, right? That we're going to have gas at the gas station, or that the car is going to turn on when you hit the ignition, and that gravity is going to hold your car to the earth as you drive across the country. I mean, without guarantees, you just cannot build a plan to get from where you are to where you want to go. So what are some impossibilities that are baked into traditional 401ks, IRAs, other traditional retirement plans? So for example, number one on the screen here, no matter how smart your financial advisor may think he is, neither he nor you have any idea what your account value will be worth when you need it. And no matter how smart your doctor is, he has no idea how long you might live, meaning we have no idea how much money you're going to need or how long your money will have to last for you. And again, no matter how smart your accountant is, he has no idea what tax rates will be over the next 30 or 40 years of your retirement. So let's dive a little deeper into the first problem. If you don't know what your account will be worth on the day you retire, do you really have a plan, or are you just gambling? Two market crashes of 50% or more just since the year 2000 shows that markets don't always go up, right? And now, by the way, we're in the longest bull market in recorded history since the dawn of mankind. So ask yourself, do you believe that there will be another market crash like we had in 2008? Do you want to have happen to you this time what happened last time? If not, if you don't want to have happen this time what happened last time, why are we doing the same things with our money that we were doing 10 years ago, such as investing in the stock market? Do we have time to let the market recover if there's going to be another major market correction like many people think there might be, whether it's as bad as 2008 or not? Oftentimes, major market corrections can take 20 years just to break even. I mean, that's been the case since 1929, 16 to 25 years just to get to pre-crash levels. Now, even Warren Buffett thinks there's going to be an inevitable stock market crash of 50% or more waiting in our future. In fact, the only person who's guaranteed anything in your traditional retirement plan is the investment advisor who's getting fees, guaranteed fees off your account every year, no matter what the market does. So how would another crash of 50% or more affect your retirement security? Now, here's something I don't hear many retirement planners or even investment advisors talk about. This is something called sequence of return risk. And this is something a former professor of mine at the American College made me aware of. And please know, while I get it, I know that this might sound nerdy, for your financial future, the sequence of return risk matters big time. Here's what I mean. It's the first 5 to 10 years before you retire and the 5 to 10 years after you retire that seem to matter the most when it comes to the rate of return and the order of those returns. So it's like having an earthquake at the top of the mountain. You'd fall farther if you were up higher, right? So how will you climb up the mountain with these earthquakes or get down the market when markets are crashing at the most important years of your financial life? So has anybody here ever heard of the 4% rule? If anybody has any awareness of the 4% rule or ever heard of it, if you're able to quickly just type that in the chat box, or please let me know on the chat box. I do have a prize that I'm ready to give out to anyone, the first person who can give me a correct answer on the 4% rule. And the chat box should be on your toolbar there. Anybody have any guess on what is the 4% rule? I'll give you a few seconds here to write something out. Any guesses? Any guesses? Not sure? Googling it quickly? No. If you're not able to see the chat box, it's in the toolbar at the top of the page. Oh, we've got one person here. Yep, thank you, Marianne. You get a free copy of one of my best-selling books. I'll send that to you afterward. Let me jot your name down here. So yes, that's exactly right. You wrote the percentage of what you could withdraw each year. So I'm writing your name down. And yeah, we will get that book to you. Absolutely. Awesome. So yeah, it is right. It's the rule of thumb that says that you can take 4% of your money out of your retirement account each year and live comfortably in retirement without running out of money. So is that still a rule that we can abide by, right? That we can still learn to live with? Is that something that, and many retirees are realizing that, you know, they're running out of money sooner than these experts expected. So in recent years, the 4% rule has been shown, the studies show that we're only going to have approximately a 50% probability of not running out of money over 30 years, over your retirement years. So we're learning that that has a 50% probability of success, meaning your odds are as good as heads or tails that you would run out of money before you ran out of birthday candles. So that's why many retirees are going back to work at Walmart. So great answer, Marianne. I mean, think about it for a minute. If you knew that the plane you were getting on to travel across country only had a 50% chance of arriving safely, would you get on that plane? I wouldn't. So the current withdrawal rate has been dropping, but recently they've come out with a study that says, and this is again according to Wade Pfau, that we need to take about 2.8% out safely to spend money over a 30-year period. So that's coming down the mountain. After you've saved up all that money, what's the safe withdrawal rate? And that safe withdrawal rate apparently is 2.8%. Here's what that chart looks like. Whereas if you just take too much money out, you would run out of money too fast. And that was shocking when I learned this. I mean, I was taught that mainstream ways of looking at retirement income was the best way to do it, you know? But apparently we have a coin's toss chance to make it through retirement, taking out 4% a year. They say that 85% of deaths, this was crazy when I learned this is in National Geographic, 85% of deaths on Mount Everest are not ascending the mountain, but guys, it's coming down the mountain where most of the deaths take place. So we've got, I think, a real issue on our hands where we've got Wall Street basically not cutting it when it comes to helping us get back down the mountain. So if you have somehow put together $1 million portfolio, you might be feeling pretty good about yourself as you enter your retirement years. But what is that millionaire lifestyle actually like? Well, 2.8% of $1 million is a whopping 28 grand a year, or about 2,300 a month. And that's if the money's in a 401k or IRA, that money's going to have to go through Uncle Sam's hands before you can get to it. So if tax rates don't go up in the future, and some people think it will, that means you only get to keep about $22,000 a year, or about $1,800 a month. $1,800 a month, that's some millionaire lifestyle, right? Now, of course, not all of us on this webinar have $1 million saved for our retirement, especially when you keep in mind that we can't spend $500,000 of it for medical and long-term care needs. So $500,000 might only net you a pre-tax $1,100 a month. Then take taxes out of that, you might be looking at $800 a month after tax. It's just crazy. So how does that compare with what you're spending right now for your lifestyle? I mean, this is the best bet that Wall Street can offer us. I think it's just not an efficient way. Wall Street does not have the most efficient way to save for the future. Other financial experts say that you need to have about 10 to 20 times your income saved before you retire. How many years of savings do you currently have? Most people I meet have about 1 year saved or less. And even the top 10% of earners I talk to have less than maybe two years saved. So the truth is, we're all living longer. So when you retire, one client told me once that he felt like the day he retired, it felt like a gun went off, and now he was in a race with his own money. Who would run out first? Who would finish first? I mean, this is not a race that you want to lose. So here's another impossible question that we have to have some sort of answer to as you approach retirement. How long will you live? These days, someone who's 65 years old today will live to their 85 years old or older possibly. These are just the averages. 1 in 10 seniors today will live past age 95. Past age 95. So as the old saying goes, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. When planning your income and retirement, I typically recommend planning to live at least to age 95. Also, forgotten in most retirement plans is the effect on inflation over 30 years. So sometimes inflation can get out of control. It was 10% a year or more in recent years. We've had low inflation in the last few years, but it's not always been the case. So we have had low inflation lately, but that's not guaranteed, right? And even low inflation can gobble up most of your savings, and including your Social Security benefits. So from 1913 to 2013, inflation has been over 3% a year. So with just a 3% inflation for our clients, we typically plan around 3 to 4%. That unfortunately means the value of your dollar will be cut in half over a 25-year period. 25-year period, and your money gets cut in half. So your doctor's bill goes from $100 to $200. If you're on a fixed income, that's going to hurt. So can you see how much conventional retirement planning is based on just things we cannot predict or control? So, turning our attention now to the market, which is really supposed to save us, right? It's supposed to save us from all these problems like living too long and inflation. So what are the real returns people are actually getting in the markets? So I'll give you a very quick story here. I meet with a group of professionals and attorneys every week, each year around the holidays. I'll put together a little wager for them. And every year I kind of raise the stakes. I say that, hey, if they can bring me an investment statement from anybody they know, including their own brokerage accounts or 401ks, and if they can show on that statement an annual real return of 10% or better, something that I hear radio hosts claim you should be able to do easily, that I would gladly donate $500 of my own money to their favorite charity in their name. So I do this every year, and so far I've not had a single member of that group get the donation. I'm sure they're generous people. They want to support their own charities. Why don't they show me those statements? Why don't they prove that you can get 10% a year in the market? Well, I have a feeling that it's because that there's just not that many people who are doing that well in the market. Even CPAs and investment advisors cannot show me those returns. So what are real people actually getting? What are the real actual returns in the market? Think about it. What's the minimum annual return you'd want to get in the stock market? in order to stomach those numbing and nerve-wracking churns of the market? Is it 5%, 7% maybe? Would you require a 10% return just to jump up and down in the market like that and watch those accounts drop and raise? Well, okay, pop quiz and another book is on the line here. So get ready to write your answers in the chat box. Are you ready? Okay. Over the last 30 years, the typical investor in equity mutual funds has had what rate of return in the market? Okay, I'll read it again. Over the last 30 years, the typical investor in equity mutual funds has had what rate of return, average rate of return in the market? Go ahead and put your answers in the chat box. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Best guesses. Okay, we got 5%. Seems like we've got a 5%, we've got 3%. 3%, wow, in the stock market, wow. Someone's writing on the screen, that's pretty cool. Whoever wrote on the screen gets extra credit. All right, we've got 2.5. Guys, aren't you listening to these radio hosts telling you can do 12% a year on your mutual funds? I don't understand. Of course, I'm just kidding. Let's see. So the real returns of real investors, typical investors, have had a 3.98% annual return. So MRTURCO, you are the closest. So I'll just need to get I think I might know who you are just from your registration, but I will write your name, your username down here. And I will get you a copy of our best-selling book. So keep your eye out for that. Well done. Good guesses, everybody. Nobody said 10% a year. I'm surprised. I mean, 3.98% barely even beats inflation. And that's before fees and taxes are factored in. By the way, this is not my study here. This is Dalbar, the quantitative analysis of investor behavior. So, I'm just surprised that, this is not more well known. This is a third party doing this research. So, we need to keep our eye on the real returns of actual investors. Is that worth it? I mean, is 3.98% over 30 years really worth all that stress and sleepless nights? Okay, so number 2. Speaking of fees, let's get into problem number 2 now. The hidden viper in everybody's portfolio, everyone listening to this, if you have investments, this is the destroyer of your financial freedom. Literally, I'm not overstating that. I'm speaking very clearly and hopefully as truthfully as I can as a financial planner that deals with the issue of fees that I see every single day. So most people have no idea they are paying fees on their investments. They have no idea if they are paying fees, what they are paying in fees, or how to get around them. If they know what they are, they might not have any clue how to get around them and just think that fees are inevitable. But for example, the average fee of just 1% a year doesn't sound like a lot. And the idea is that if the advisor grows your nest egg, you wouldn't mind paying him a little bit just because he's growing your account. That was the idea, right? Let's see. If your advisor just takes a modest 1% a year of assets under management every single year on your money, and he gives you, let's say, a nice healthy 7% return on your investments, you'd be okay with that, I hope, right? Unfortunately, however, the value of your savings would be slashed by 28%, almost a third of your money gone just to fees over 35 years, according to the Department of Labor. And most Americans are paying more than double those fees. 1.9% is the average fee structure on most 401k plans. And fees are not transparent. Fees can be baked in about 30 different ways. So you look at those internal fees structures or those load costs and you think, well, that doesn't look like a lot. But you have to really dig into the prospectus and into the plan to see every way that your 401k or IRA is being feed to death. Just because it's a low-cost index fund doesn't mean your account is low cost, okay? Firms don't offer IRAs out of the goodness of their own hearts. In fact, many firms, financial firms, were caught lying red-handed about the fees that they were charging their account holders when they were inquired about that. So that's, I think, just preposterous. some people wonder what financial advisors dream about at night. I know, I get it. Some people just have way too much time on their hands. So if you really must know, we dream about compound growth. As Einstein called it, it's the eighth wonder of the world. We are mesmerized by the power of things that never stop growing faster and faster and faster. That is the power of earning compound interest. Earning compound interest is beautiful. When it is your investment advisor that's earning compound fees due to fees compounding against you, that is the opposite problem. That has the power of devouring most of your wealth over time. It is true that index funds have lower fees. However, all you're doing is watching the whole index and not making a lot of buy and sell decisions. So there's not a lot for the advisor to do but collect the fee. He just sits back and collects the fee. But even index funds will gobble up your retirement. 23% gone due to fees in one popular account over 30 years. And don't forget, you still have to pay them during your retirement too. It's not like the fees go away once you retire. And even no load index funds, those free index funds are not free. They aren't doing this for charity, right? So they are still loaded up with hefty fees. Somebody's getting rich here, but it is not you. So the third problem is that your money is not accessible, and the penalties and restrictions to get access to it are hefty. This is huge. Again, my biggest wake-up call was during the financial crisis. Nobody could touch the equity in their home, which was vaporizing, or the 401k, which was vaporizing. In fact, most retirement plans have more strings attached to them than Pinocchio. So for example, you can have restrictions on how much you can put in, what you can and cannot invest in, how much you can borrow, how much and when you can pay it back. Otherwise, they'll slap you with more penalties. Even more restrictions on when you can withdraw the money. If you take it out too early, boom, another penalty of 10%. And finally, there's the penalty for if you don't take out your money. If you don't take out money in time, they're tired of waiting on those taxes. If you mess up and don't take out enough money, you'll owe a 50% penalty on that number. 50%. It's just, it blows my mind. Even further, employers can throw more restrictions on your money, and most people never read the fine print when they're signing those benefit documents when they get their new job. Both the government and your employer can change rules when they want to. They can call them profit sharing plans for a reason, because they're technically not your profits until you leave the company, of course. Have you ever heard of someone called Willie Sutton? He was a bank robber, Willie Sutton. He robbed 24 banks in his lifetime. So that's pretty remarkable. I mean, I don't, promote robbing banks, but if you do it 24 times, you got at least a skill, I guess. So when he finally got caught, they asked him, "Why do you keep robbing banks?" And Willie Sutton said, "Well, that's because that's where the money is." Well, where's the money in this country today? Well, there happens to be $25 trillion inside our retirement accounts, and the government regularly floats proposals to take that money over. It just so happens the government's got about $25 trillion in deficits. So since they created the 401k and the IRA, and since they know exactly how much money you have in those accounts, wouldn't it be the easiest and fastest way to get the hands on the money that they need to fund their deficits as a government? So the fourth problem is going to lead us right from that sentence over to this one, which is you're sitting on a ticking tax time bomb. These taxes that the government will take out of our 401ks and IRAs is the fourth biggest problem that folks have yet to really review or consider. I hope you have already been doing some of this yourself, but many people are still not sure how the 401k will be taxed. So let's break that down for just a minute. Most CPAs and accountants love to tell you to defer your taxes. I mean, it really makes them look smart on this year's tax return that they'll give you in exchange for the fee that you pay the CPA. But if you think about it, treat your taxes like a root canal. I mean, is it ever a good idea to defer a root canal? Most people assume that, that they can just come out ahead by deferring taxes. I mean, the myth is that by deferring your taxes, you can get the entire retirement savings contribution earning and growing in the market for your future. Let's take a look at that. That myth, unfortunately, is completely false. I mean, isn't it better, so they say, to grow your money tax deferred? So let's find out. Let's do the math. Let's assume that you have $1,000 in some sort of 401k or some sort of value here, and you're going to put it, let's say that you're in a 20% tax bracket. Let's say that whatever you've put that $1,000 in is going to grow 10% a year. Now, we'll do that over 10 years. Now, again, you can use any numbers you want, but we'll use these just to make the math really easy. So on the tax deferred account, tax deferred means you pay no income tax on the money as you put it in. And you only pay tax on the money when you take it out, like a 401k. A tax-free growth means that you pay income tax today on the money before you put it in there, and then you have no income tax on the money when you take it out, like a Roth IRA. So let's try and follow this. Your $1,000 tax deferred stays at $1,000. However, when you put the money into an after-tax account, you have to pay your tax today of 20% of $1,000, so that would be $800. Right off the bat, you're behind in your tax-free account. So by year one, you can see the results of being tax deferred. I mean, it's pretty clear. $1,100 in tax deferred, but only $880 in the tax-free account. Looks like the wrestling match is over. Now, let's take a look though, just for completion here. Over the next 10 years, what happens? Okay, with the tax deferred money, you now have $2,594, but in the tax-free account, you only have $2,075. The winner seems clear. But wait, remember that tax deferred does not mean no tax. Ben Franklin said there's only two things sure in life, death and taxes. After your taxes are paid on the tax deferred account, you're left with a whopping $2,075, the exact same as the tax-free account. So, should you do a tax-deferred account or a tax-free account? It makes literally no difference unless your tax rate goes up in the future. So what do you think? And maybe one of the most important questions you must answer for yourself. I can't answer it for you because nobody has a crystal ball. But the question is, do you think taxes will go up during your 30 plus years of retirement? So according to the Society of Actuaries, it makes no difference whether the taxes are taken from you at the beginning or at the end, as long as taxes remain the same. The same fraction of your money is left to you regardless. Now, if taxes go up even 1 percentage point, it would make more sense to do a tax-free retirement account versus a tax postponed, or they say tax deferred account. So often when folks look at their company 401k and see their account balance, they think that their entire balance is theirs to enjoy. I've got 500 grand, I'm feeling great. I've got $1 million, I'm feeling great. Unfortunately, most folks forget to factor in that the IRS has a claim on a portion of what you see when you open up your 401k or IRA statements. They get really disappointed with this. I mean, that's a really big deal for a lot of people. They feel like they're being ripped off. But wait a minute, when you defer your taxes and you were paying your fees, going back to the other problem number 2 of fees, when you're deferring your taxes but paying fees on everything, even the amount the government was inevitably going to take from you, doesn't that mean you are underwriting the cost of investing for the government for the 20 or 30 or 40 years while you let them have your money grow tax deferred? I mean, that's quite a deal for the government, don't you think? They got free investment advice and free investment, no risk, by the way. I mean, that's very generous of you to pay their fee for them to invest. Most people never stop to think about that. I mean, sure, if tax rates go lower in the future, you'd come out ahead by deferring your taxes. But where do you think taxes are going to go in this country over the next 30 years or more? So without exception, every person I've asked that question to believe taxes will ultimately go up. And by the way, every serious economist seems to agree. Where will the government get the money to cover the national debt and to fund Social Security and Medicare? Have you ever done the math on that? I mean, today there are 62 million Americans using Social Security and Medicare. By 2045, 140 million boomers, more than double the baby boomers, and Gen Xers will be over 65 requiring Social Security. It's unbelievable, the wave that's coming there. So where do you think they'll get the money to come up with all these retirees, pensions, and Social Securities and Medicare expenses? Where will they get the money? Will it come from the 80% of Americans that don't have anything saved? Or will it come from the 20% of us who do have things saved in our 401ks and IRAs? Social Security is already in a negative cash flow position. I mean, even after a 10-year bull market, they still can't make up that deficit. So what's going to happen to Social Security or Medicare when the next market crash happens? How much faster will Social Security become insolvent? So reality check, if tax rates do go up and you're successful in growing your 401k or IRA, that just means you'll only end up paying higher taxes on a bigger number. How many times are we going to let Wall Street lose 50, 30, 50, or even 70% of our life savings just to have the salt rubbed in our wounds by letting the IRS take another 20 to 50% throughout our retirement years? It's just not worth it. What if you didn't have to worry about the tax rate surprises or market crashes when you go take your retirement income? Is there any way to avoid these four dangers of conventional retirement strategies? The answer is yes. But Wall Street, banks, and finance companies hope you never hear about it because they don't make a dime on it. So there is a proven wealth building strategy that I have come across that lets you bypass Wall Street and grow your wealth safely and predictably every year, even when markets are tumbling. It does not come with riddled with high investment fees or penalize you for accessing your money. And I think crucially, it lets you fire your banker and tell credit cards to take a hike, and you can become your own source of financing using this concept. On top of all that, it is based on an asset that's increased in value every single year for more than 160 years, even during the Great Depression, even during the Great Recession of 2008, and during every period of economic boom and bust. All right, so what is it, right? What is it? Well, okay, before we go on, as a financial advisor, I need to stop here for a minute. I need to tell you a bit about my experience. So I was brought up to think that traditional ways of investing for retirement that I really just dove into myself and I really just tore apart on the previous slides was absolutely the best way to get to retirement freedom that myself and my clients wanted. I somehow thought that the white knight of Wall Street would always come through for me and my clients as a financial planner. And I thought that's all there was to it. So as previously mentioned, I got into classical financial planning training right around the time that the last financial meltdown was just getting underway. It was sort of like being drafted to the military and then being shipped right to the front lines. I heard these horror stories very quickly, became aware that Wall Street is essentially an abusive roller coaster that never stops, even when you and I need to get off. So after the financial crash, I did study and finished becoming a certified financial planner. I was obsessed with learning alternatives that would help me meet my needs for my family as well as my clients as well. I mean, I got to the point where I was just asking, where is it written that I have to put all my money into Wall Street just to retire? So that question really started a journey, and I literally studied hundreds of financial products and strategies used by average Americans as well as the ultra elite wealthy. So everything from complex dynastic trusts to stock options, hedge funds, bond portfolios, mutual funds, raw land deals, tax strategies. I mean, the list went on and on. So at the end of it all, what did I find at the end of all that study, which took almost 4 years? I mean, it shocked me. I didn't believe what it was. As it happens, of all things, it was high cash value, dividend paying, whole life insurance. Now, the more I studied this strategy, the more I could not turn away from it, the unique and almost mostly forgotten financial vehicle that's been around for centuries. So let me allow me to show you why I think this deserves a place in your portfolio. So just in case you were wondering, this is categorically different from the kind you may have heard about on TV or the radio from Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey. So first of all, there are options that have been added to whole life that they simply aren't talking about, and at least they haven't updated their talking points to include them. And modernized forms of whole life insurance give you an incredible cash growth, cutting commissions by 50 to 70%. So, you can either dig through my own CFP textbooks, which I am willing to sell or give away, I guess. They are available. Or you can read a recently published New York Times best-selling book on the topic by Pamela Yellen, who gave the nickname "Bank on Yourself" to this concept. So don't rule yourself out if you've had health issues or if you feel like you've had too many birthdays. I have had clients start their policies even into their 80s, so you are not out of the woods yet. In fact, this kind of startled me when I found this out. One of the most surprising findings I found in my research, the man credited as being the father of the 401k, Ted Benna, recently has come out as saying the 401k is a monster because of the problems we just discussed. And in fact, instead of putting money into his 401k, he's saying he's putting most of his money now into high cash value, dividend paying whole life insurance, of all things. So why would he recommend that? He's the father, the guy who created the 401k. So in essence, I believe it's because the high cash value, dividend paying whole life insurance, or we call it Bank on Yourself, uniquely solves the 4 problems we just covered, because it provides this unbeatable combination. Number 1, predictable, guaranteed growth every single year. Number 2, it gives you access and control of your money. Number 3, liquidity, easy access to the money anytime you need it, and numerous tax advantages as well. So let's look at each one of these in turn. So the first one I mentioned was guaranteed predictable growth. First, and I think most incredibly, your cash value, the money you have access to, the equity in your policy, you might say, grows by a guaranteed preset amount every single year. That guaranteed growth increases by a larger dollar amount every single year, which means your cash is growing the fastest at the time you need it the most during retirement, right? If I'm going to choose whether I want my money growing fast now or later, I want it growing when I need it the most in my retirement years. Now, of course, that guarantee is not my guarantee. It's not something I'm coming up with, but the guarantee of the life insurance company that issued the policy. Above and beyond that guarantee, however, if your policy has been designed correctly, it's also going to pay out dividends, which are not guaranteed, okay? But the companies I work with and the companies I recommend have paid dividends every single year for over 100 years, including the Great Depression. So that's the kind of track record I want with my own money, and of course for the money that my clients hold as well. By having this kind of structured, predictable growth, you can finally know the minimum amount of savings you need to have on the day you plan to retire or at any point along the way. So a gentleman named Derek, he's a corporate controller from South Carolina, said that he found some tremendous power in the peace of mind that comes with this policy. He said, I know the exact minimum guarantee I will have in my policy in retirement. He also called it the best financial decision he's ever made, which I thought was really cool. There is a multi-layer safety net for your money inside dividend-paying whole life insurance. For example, life insurance companies must be audited regularly by state insurance commissioners, as well as third-party rating agencies. So these are independent rating agencies that are keeping an eye on the balance sheets of these insurance companies. They can't just run amok with subprime mortgages or any of that mess. It's all safe and predictable stuff that the insurance companies invested in. So it is extremely rare for the insurance companies in this country to fail. If the insurance companies are going bankrupt, I mean, what do you think is going on in the stock market or any other place you might have your money? So life insurance companies usually are backed, they are always backed by the insurance commissioner in our state here in Illinois that would run the company in the interest of the policyholders. Okay, so they essentially just take over governance and help out protecting your money in the policy. Some people think when they meet with me that the safest place to put their money is in the bank, a savings account, that sort of thing. I'm here to say it is not a safe place to keep your money. How many banks failed in 2008? 465 banks failed. Not just branches, whole banks failed. So what happened to the deposits of those banks? Well, of course, we all know they were covered by FDIC. right? So what is FDIC? Does FDIC have all this money packed away somewhere? Of course not. They had to go in 2008 and ask Congress for a bailout. So who bailed out FDIC? Us taxpayers, right? Who are taxpayers? Well, that's you and me, including the depositors of those failed banks. So, pop quiz. How many? One more pop quiz here, guys. How many life insurance companies failed in 2008? Would anyone venture a guess? If you have a guess, put it in the chat box. There's a prize waiting for you. I'll grab my pen. So the first person to get the right answer gets the prize. Okay, we have three. One guess is three life insurance companies. Zero, says Kathy and Melanie. Thank you, guys. One or two more guesses, anybody? All right, four, thank you. All right, we have a, I don't know what to do here because I guess I'll give a gift to Melanie and to Kathy because, let me write those names down here. Because the answer is one, just one company. So one company. And let's find out what's going on there. What happened there? So some no-name insurance company I had never heard of. I was doing some research for this workshop, but the State Insurance Commissioner of Texas took over Lincoln Memorial Life Insurance, protected them and the contracts of the policyholders by giving those insurance contracts to a more stable life insurance company. So the only thing the policyholders saw was a change of logo at the top of their annual dividend statements. So that's the power of life insurance. They simply don't go out of business, or if they do, they get passed on to another more stable company and taking care of the policyholders and the promises that they were given in those insurance contracts. Okay, so cash value life insurance is so safe that even banks use it for their own safe money. In fact, you can learn a lot more about this. Just look up bank-owned life insurance on Google. Banks are some of the biggest purchasers of these policies. In fact, FDIC recently did a report saying that 83% of banks have bank-owned life insurance, and it comprises a quarter of their tier one safest money capital. So again, if banks are thinking this is a good place to park their money, I'm pretty good with it for my own money as well. According to the most recent statistics, banks own guaranteed permanent life insurance worth approximately $162 billion. So I only put my clients with the financially strongest life insurance companies, so that we take care of the long-term needs of the client's money. So I guess one thing to just keep in mind: don't do what banks are telling you to do with your money. Instead, watch what they're doing with their money and go do that. Okay? So if they're telling you to put money in their safe deposit savings account, and yet they're going to put it in life insurance, that should give you pause to reflect, right? Now, advantage number two, no fees or cost surprises. I thought this was really fascinating. So unlike typical investments where fees are tacked on every year, and you have no idea what you'll be paying them to get into your retirement account, and all those fees and costs of a bank on yourself policy, unlike investments, are already deducted, and projections from guaranteed values are provided for you before you even sign up for the policy, which means you know your bottom line numbers in advance, so there's no surprises there. One of the common misconceptions I've had when I was first looking into this strategy was that insurance commissions are extremely high for whole life insurance. I mean, remember, if you had $10,000 a year put into a traditional investment account with fees of just 1% a year, you'll end up paying $100,000 over that period of time, 30 years. Now, if you put the same $10,000 a year for the same 30 years into a bank on yourself type policy, the commissions is only about $8,500 total over a 30-year period. So, which one of those two numbers would you rather pay for your retirement? $100,000 in commissions to an investment advisor with no guarantees, or $8,500 in commissions to a bank on yourself advisor and receive multiple guarantees? Seems clear, right? Now the question becomes, why would anyone, including me, willingly sacrifice that kind of commission on investment fees for a much smaller commission? I mean, besides being a CFP and a fiduciary working in your best interest, I have a feeling that if you're 10 times as happy because of your commissions and costs being that much less, you're going to end up referring me and my advisors to friends and family, and that just has been the case. I mean, my business is doing great. Clients couldn't be happier. And most importantly, they get to retire before I do, which I think is the right thing to do there. Now, advantage number 3, the third advantage, and this one cannot be overstated, is the ability to access and control your own money. So you can tap into about 90% of your cash value for whatever you want, whenever you want, by just answering 2 questions. 1, how much do you want? 2, where do you want it sent? I mean, it's literally that easy to get your money out of these policies. There's no penalties for early withdrawal, no penalties for waiting too long. There's no required minimum distributions. You can take your income whenever you want, however you want. I mean, it's your money, so you are in control. Dave Shelton said, I have very limited control in my money when it comes to my 401k. With Bank on Yourself, I don't have to ask for permission to use my own money. So you can use your policy to bypass banks, finance companies, become your own source of financing. So by making major purchases using a policy loan, which are possible through these policies, they're going to beat financing, leasing, and I would say even directly paying cash for big purchases. I mean, if you think about it, either you're going to pay interest when you finance or lease, or you'll pass up interest you could have earned on your savings had you not bought the car. Let's think about that for a minute. Virtually every financial planner out there is motivated and even compensated on you not spending money, okay? By not buying that car that you need, or sending your kid to college, or even that $5 latte. They want you to put it all into assets in the investment accounts that they manage and they take fees on. The whole goal of most advisors is to get you as much as possible to put money under their management, but then they have no real plan on how you can spend it in retirement and no ability to give you access to it along the way for the next 20, 30 years until you retire. So I believe that's just not a healthy way to deal with your money. It's not a sane way to deal with your money. I mean, what about all the millions of dollars you might spend before you retire? Add up your cars, vacations, home repairs, kids' college. I mean, there's a better way to make major purchases. And the way to do it, I believe, is first, fund a Bank on Yourself policy, then take a loan against your cash value for whatever you want, for any purpose at all, and then you can repay the loan to your policy on your own schedule. There's no required repayment plan. So you pay it back as you please. If you hit a rough patch, just skip a few payments. There's no required repayment schedule, will not show up or harm your credit score. When you take a policy loan, you can continue to receive the same growth of your money as if you had never taken a loan. So that's so huge, I need to say it again. You can continue to compound the growth of your money even on the capital you borrow. So this allows your money to continue to grow compounding even when you're using the money for things you need in your life. Here's the one chance in the financial universe that I've been able to find that lets your money do 2 things at once. It's huge. So only a select few of the roughly 1,500 life insurance companies in this country offer this feature. So that's the ones that I've sought out, and I specifically use them for my clients' finances. So the Bank on Yourself self-financing strategy solves the problem of having to constantly interrupt the growth of your money whenever you use it. Because of this, I think this is why many business owners have used this strategy to help them grow and protect their wealth as well as their business. So for example, Walt Disney borrowed from his policy in 1953 to fund Disneyland when no banker would lend him the money. And James Penny, following the 1929 crash, he borrowed from his life insurance policy to meet company payroll. The founder, Ray Kroc of McDonald's, had major cash flow problems in the early years, and he used a policy loan to cover salaries and to fund the Ronald McDonald ad campaign. And Foster Farms, it was founded in the end of the Dust Bowl in 1939 with a policy loan used to buy an 80-acre farm. Now, there are a global phenomenon. The Pampered Chef was born in 1980 using a simple $3,000 policy loan from a life insurance policy. And reportedly, anyway, Doris Christopher, who started the business, sold that business to Warren Buffett for $1.5 billion. It's quite a rate of return. So does having money safe, liquid, and growing with a competitive rate without market risk take away any of your options? Or does it give you more options and flexibility? So the fourth advantage of our 4 reasons here is the tax advantages. Here are simply 5 awesome tax advantages that come with life insurance. So with dividend paying whole life, you pay your taxes up front when you know what they are. And then you can take your retirement with no taxes due under current law through a combination of dividend withdrawals and loans against your cash value. So by shifting some of your retirement income you take from the 401k and IRAs to the whole life insurance, you could actually reduce the taxes you might owe on your Social Security. So most people don't realize that Social Security will be taxed. I know it's weird. It's like being taxed twice, once now in your working years and again then in retirement. It's madness. Now, if you make over $32,000 a year from your 401k or your IRA or any part-time work in retirement, 50% of your Social Security check will be taxed. And if you make over $44,000 a year married in retirement, that means 85% of your Social Security will be taxed. However, the money taken from your policy is not reported by the IRS and it will not affect your Social Security check. Income that you'll take from your policy does not increase Medicare premium. The business owners might also get additional tax breaks from the policy loans to finance business expenses. Your policy has a death benefit, which passes income tax free to your loved ones. So let's do this quick roundup here of the different retirement plans we've covered today. So does your strategy give you guaranteed growth? Not 401ks, IRAs, or Roth IRAs, only whole life insurance can provide guarantees. What about locking in your principal or giving you control of your money? Unfortunately, in both cases, the 401ks, IRAs, and Roth plans don't give you locked in principal and they don't give you control over your money. What about using your money without penalties before you retire? Sorry, once again, only the whole life policy will give you a control over your money. These other accounts require taxes or penalties to get the money out. Now, what about any of these giving you tax-free income in retirement? Well, this is one where the Roth plan at least gives you the ability to get taxes out of the way now. But even here, whole life policies give you more freedom to add whatever you want, and you can put more in even after you retire, no required minimum distributions. Life insurance policies don't have the restrictions of income phase-out laws or anything else. Which of these accounts let you access the money without liquidating the money? This one's huge. Again, you can borrow from the 401k, but they liquidate your investments and then hold that money in a loan as collateral in a cash savings inside the 401k, which means you're going to miss out on whatever returns you might have had in the market had you not borrowed the cash out of the 401k. And there are some other significant restrictions on 401k loans. For example, if you lose your job, the whole loan balance is due in full, the year after you get the pink slip or get fired, which is, I think, a terrible time to be paying off huge lump sums, right? With a bank on yourself policy, the money is still growing even if you access it as a loan. It's truly unique in the financial universe. Which of these accounts would finish funding itself if you die prematurely? Of course, life insurance is the only thing that lets your spouse retire well, whether you're here on this side of heaven or the other side, to save for their retirement. So if you pass away while saving for the 401k or IRA, your spouse only gets what you've managed to put in those accounts. Life insurance, on the other hand, lets you leave your family more money than you could have saved for them if you pass away too soon. Now, which of these would give you the ability to know your minimum guaranteed value of your savings when you want to tap into it? Again, only whole life insurance gives you a real plan. So let's take a look at it. In every single instance, the bank on yourself plan seems to solve the major problems that most retirement plans have. So let's do 2 real-life case studies to see how this works in real life and how it can be custom designed for your financial goals. So John is 44, Mary is 43. Their 2 children are 9 and 7. Oh, and John earns $125,000 annually. Mary earns $35,000. John's going to contribute the most he can to the 401k and get a 5% match. Mary's going to contribute $4,500 with no match. John and Mary have some IRA balances, about 84 grand in those, and another mutual fund brokerage account of 60 grand. So their biggest concerns when they met with me was they had a retirement plan that was totally based on speculation, as they said. They were concerned also about paying for their kids' college. And will they have a comfortable retirement? And can they leave a legacy to their kids? We found that the Bank on Yourself strategy solved the problems that they brought to me. One, they said John was going to reduce the 401k plan just to the match. Mary was going to stop funding the 401k since she didn't get a match at all. And then they'd stop putting $500 a month into the brokerage account mutual funds. These changes allowed John and Mary to contribute $22,000 a year to their Bank on Yourself strategy with no out-of-pocket expense. And that was really it. That's all they had to do. What were the results? Well, the main thing was they're no longer totally tied to the stock market for their financial future. They also found that they would know the minimum guarantee of their policy anyway. They still had some stuff in the market, but they at least knew that they had a basic foundation of financial peace with the policy. They also found that they could use the policy itself to borrow against the cash value and then send their kids to college with the money, so that their money was paid back again after the kids were out of school, so that money would be ready to use again in their retirement. It's huge. Recycling the money rather than just throwing it away at college. And then on top of that, the money did not count against them when they applied for financial federal student aid. So life insurance cash value is not counted in the FAFSA calculations. If you have children going to college, that's a really important point, which we can talk about later. And again, the total income from all of their sources of income was $151,000 per year from their current age until they were passed away at age 96. And they still had, from the policy anyway, they still had tax-free income from the life insurance policy. So, and they could also leave a legacy. If John passed away at 86 years old, his wife and kids would have almost $700,000 income tax-free. So they were thrilled. It was absolutely thrilling to watch their response. And then in the case study 2, Dan is 53, Sheila is 51. Dan was maxing out his 401k, even catching up with the catch-up provision. They were concerned also about the market crash. They were concerned about tax rates going up over the long term. And they were concerned, again, that they would lose a significant portion of their future income due to taxes. So because of this, I think the Bank on Yourself plan made best sense for them as well in this case. So Dan decided to cut back his 401k down to the match, and Sheila and Dan made a few adjustments to their spending habits so that they were able to put away $21,000 a year into their Bank on Yourself strategy. Dan plans to work until he's 65 and then take Social Security, but Dan won't need to rely on Social Security, so he'll use that Social Security money to keep funding his policy throughout his retirement years. Well, how about them? How about these guys? How did they do? So by Dan's time of age 77, his policy had a predicted cash value of $650,000, which would give him 36 grand a year until age 97, tax-free. And at age 77, he would have an income tax-free death benefit of $950,000 to provide for Sheila if he passed away. So they too were just overwhelmed and happy with the solution we'd put together for them. They're not going to have to worry about the market crash taking away 50% of their savings again. And they'd replace speculation and luck with predictability and guarantees. They avoided some of the income tax rate surprises that were baked into last year's Tax Reform Act. And they'll know that Sheila will be taken care of when Dan passes away. What about you? If you'd like to find out how a custom-tailored Bank on Yourself strategy could help you reach your financial goals and dreams without taking unnecessary risk, here's how you can do it. You can get all your questions answered. Now, I know I've been describing a lot of the features and the benefits in today's workshop, but I certainly haven't met you yet, and I don't know if this would be a good fit for you yet. I'd love to find out with you if this concept makes sense in your situation. So in order to get all of your questions answered and to find out if this would be a policy that you would own, even if you're not the insured. Again, if you have health issues, you don't have to be the insured. You can simply be the owner of the policy. We'd need to have a follow-up conversation or two to learn more about your unique situation. We dig a little deeper, learn how your money is set today, what you like and what you don't like about your current financial life, kind of like a financial flyover, 30,000 foot. We'd love to hear from you, the good, the bad, the ugly, on your finances, and build a blueprint to get you from where you are now to where you want to go. We'll look at 8 ways to free up money to fund your policy, sometimes at no additional out-of-pocket cost. No two policies are alike, so we would look at the bottom line numbers, the results, to see if you could be approved and to see if this would be something you could incorporate into your overall portfolio, and to get a free, no obligation analysis. Why work with me? Well, again, if your policy isn't properly structured, you could lose the tax advantages, or it could grow a lot more slowly, or both. Some advisors will recommend different kinds of life insurance that are out there, but no other product comes with these guarantees I've described as dividend-paying whole life insurance. And only a handful of life insurance companies even offer all the right policy features, like it has paid dividends every year for 100 years. It has to give you that feature that lets your cash value grow, whether you've taken a loan out or not. And you want to make sure that these companies are the financially strongest in the country. I am one of the only 200 financial professionals in the country that have met these requirements to become a Bank on Yourself authorized advisor. It does take a lot of nuance and strategy and learning to build these correctly. And unfortunately, I've seen too many people think they had something like this, only to find out that they were still tied to the stock market in their life insurance policy of all things. So there are 2 ways to book a no obligation appointment with me today. The simplest and best way, and I'll put this in the chat box, is to go to our free website, lakegrowth.com/schedule. And there it is in the chat box. If you click on that link, you can go right there and schedule a 15-minute quick phone introduction to give us a chance to get to know you a little bit, answer questions that we won't have time to cover in today's webinar. So write down your questions and then schedule a time with us as soon as possible. I have opened up my calendar for the next few days to make sure to have room for tonight's workshop. We are having another workshop tomorrow, also on webinar. So we didn't want to crowd out too many folks there. So we're taking your appointments tonight. And I'd love to go ahead and get that scheduled with you. If you have a few minutes, you can go there now and choose that 15-minute phone introduction meeting. We don't bite and we don't charge a fee to have that conversation with you. So just to answer your questions, that's the best way to connect with us. The other way, of course, is to go to lakegrowth.com and select Contact Us. So I'll include that as well. Since we aren't in person, I won't be passing out any papers to collect your information to do this free financial analysis. So when you book that appointment, here's what will happen. We'll sit down with you. We'll get your questions answered from tonight's workshop. We'll learn a bit more about your situation in a short call like that, of course. It'll be our introductory phone appointment. But I will give you the strategy and report for how to best take your Social Security when the right time is to take your Social Security. We do have some software for that, which is crucially important, one of the biggest important decisions you'll make in your retirement years. And then also, how much income do you need? This will reveal any income shortfall you have toward your retirement. Are you ahead of the game? Are you behind the game? What is your magic number? We'll be sure to include that in our conversations with you as the conversations progress. So to take the next step in taking control of your financial future, again, the very best way, the only way on our webinar is to go to lakegrowth.com/schedule. And again, it's in the chat box there. And select phone introduction. It's a 15-minute phone call. And it'll give us a chance to discuss your questions and learn more about your situation. Again, we've cleared the calendar for the next 2 weeks or so, but the calendar is a first come, first serve. So I want to thank everyone tonight for being a part of tonight's workshop. I'm going to leave the screen up for a few moments. I'll be here for a minute or two more, and then I'll be sure to shut down the webinar, and we'll try to get everything wrapped up here to get you onto your evening. I'm glad we were able to make it this evening, and I'll be here for just a few more moments as I'm closing things up. So thank you everyone for being a part of tonight's workshop.